welcome to my channel. My name is Reagan, and today I'm going to be talking about my first trimester. Honestly, it's kind of a blur because I am now 23 weeks pregnant. I'm in my 24th week. I'll do a separate update on that. But first, let's talk about what it was like before I found out I was pregnant. So I mostly had a lot of issues with heartburn. Like, a lot of issues with heartburn. That was one of the first things that happened, actually. And it persisted throughout, like, the entire first trimester. And it was honestly terrible. And it went away. And now it's back. Another big one before I even took a test was cramping. It was like I was... the way bloating feels. But instead of being, like, in my stomach, it was, like, lower. So I felt, like, really full and, like, a lot of tugging. Sorry. It's hot in here, and I'm big now, and I just constantly have to be having something with ice in it. But anyways, it's just a lot of pulling and pressure, and it felt like there was so much blood flow around, like, my uterus and stuff. And that was almost immediate. I mean, within 3 days, I was like, what's this weird feeling? Like, I just knew it was there, and I couldn't quite pinpoint why. I said something about it to my now husband, and he just looked at me like, are you pregnant? Like, it said it in his face, and he was just like, no. And I was like, and of course that just stayed in my head for about a week and a half before I caved and took a test. I was also very hungry. I wanted Zaxby's all the time. I kept wanting their buffalo chicken wings, like their boneless chicken wings with ranch. I'd kill for that right now. So that persisted up until, well, it just kept on. But I took the test probably, it was definitely early because it was before I missed my period, because I kept having these things happen, and once that got in my head, I was like, let's take a test. So I told him I was going to take a test, and he was like, all right, which usually if I have a feeling, I'm like, what if I'm pregnant? He's like, you're not pregnant. This time he was like, all right, you go take that test. So I went to the store and I got a 3-pack. I got a 3-pack of the first response, and one of the first responses was a digital one, and the other 2 were lines. So I did a line one first, but the line started turning white, like the line that like actually detects the hormone. It started turning white. So I was like, oh my god, it's broken. So I rip open the other line one and I dip it in, and that one started turning white too, and I was like, oh no, I just bought this faulty box. So I set this aside and I opened the digital one. And as soon as I opened the digital one, it's just flashing. It's flashing every sign it has. I'm like, are you kidding me? This whole box is broken. I was so upset, and it's not like I could, like, it was like a $15 box. Like, are you kidding me? And I could have called. There was a number on the back, and then they'd send you a new one, but I live with my parents. I'm 19, if you couldn't tell by the title. I didn't want a box showing up on my doorstep with a pregnancy test in it, so I was like, alright, I just bought these faulty tests. Anyways, I dipped the digital one in there, and it corrected itself, and it just started timing. And I was like, well, if this says no and the other 2 have like little faint lines on them, I'm gonna go get another box. So I'm just watching them intently, just like, intensely. And nothing's really happening. It's just flashing. It's like starting to turn less white. The lines are starting to turn less white, and I was like, ooh, ooh, but then I was like, I don't need to trust it because it could just be like, I don't know, like an indent or the evaporation line or whatever people say. So as I'm sitting there contemplating whether or not it says yes, the digital one says yes, and my jaw completely hit the floor basically. I wasn't surprised, but I was very much so like, what do I do next? Like, what's the next move? So that was at nighttime, I think. I'm trying to remember back. This was a while ago. But it was at nighttime, I think. And then the next day, I believe, I went to my then boyfriend's house. And everything was normal. I didn't say anything. I just waited for him to ask me about it, basically. Which, you know, men, they don't ask. They're not gonna ask. Just tell them. So I get a call from my dad, and he's like, hey, come help me with this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, man, now I have to leave, and I'm the only person that knows I'm pregnant. Like, I started freaking out. So before I left, I was like, you know, you haven't even asked me about the test. I told you I was going to take one last night. He was like, I just thought you'd tell me. Fair enough. But I did not. And so I pulled out the digital one from my wallet, which is disgusting. And he was like, well, just, I can't even say what he said because I feel like I shouldn't cuss up here. He was like, how are we this unfortunate? Because he was planning on going into the military, which this did not stop him from going to the military, nor did I want it to stop him from going to the military. But we thought he'd be leaving in January, and this was back in November of 2019. So it was just, he'd be missing everything. It was just an unfortunate circumstance. So he's like, how are we this unlucky? And I'm like, I'm gonna tell our son, which I didn't know was our son at that point because we didn't know it was a boy, but it is a boy. It's like, I'm gonna tell our future kid that this is how you reacted. Like, you're gonna love him. You better act like you love him. Because I'm telling him. And I left. And I told my parents maybe, let's see, I found out at about 3.5, almost 4 weeks pregnant, which is really early for someone who's not trying to get pregnant. And I think I told my mom and stepdad on Thanksgiving. I told them on Thanksgiving Day. I'm remembering now. I'll have to do a whole separate video on telling my parents, but that was about 6 weeks pregnant, I think. And I told my dad about a week or 2 after that. So, because I was so scared to tell my dad. Anyways, I'll do a separate video on that, like I said. Now, the majority of my symptoms after that, there were some of the same ones I still had before I found out I was pregnant. So I was definitely nauseous. I had nausea, not that bad. It really wasn't that bad for me personally. I know everybody's gonna hate me for that. But it really wasn't terrible. I only threw up, I think, twice. So I only got sick twice. And I had a migraine on 2 days back to back, and I got sick both of those days, and that was it. And then those were the only headaches I had too. But I definitely felt nauseous, mostly at night, which is very backwards, I know. I never had it in the morning, only at night. And I still had really bad heartburn. That was every time I ate. In the first trimester, it was every single time I ate. I still had cramping just from growing and not being used to growing anything in my body with a child. Okay, this one was weird. sorry, I'm looking down. I have like a list of things, of symptoms or whatever. I had body aches, like really weird body aches, like not just moving and being sore, but like to the touch, like if I touched my knee or I touched my arm, and it was mostly in my legs really. It was just like painful. It's almost like when you get your flu shot or just get a shot in general in your arm and it's like mashing that spot. It's just like sore and hurts. It was to that same pain level that gives you, but it was all down my legs. And when it went away in my legs, it was in my upper body. And then when it went away in my upper body, it went back to my legs. And that continued until maybe 14 weeks, which is out of the first trimester, but I had that for the longest time. And shortness of breath, that was the next one. I had that, and I still have that, as you could probably tell, because I feel like I sound so breathy. I don't normally talk this much for this long. This video is already like almost 12 minutes long, and I don't even know how to edit because this is my first video. So just fast forward. I'll leave some timestamps if I even can figure out how to do that. Okay, sore boobs, the typical pregnancy thing that everybody looks for. They're like, my boobs hurt, I'm pregnant. I did get that. Not as bad as people say that they get. Definitely not as bad. They got bigger. They're definitely a lot bigger than they were. And they turned colors. It was very strange. Not to be TMI, but my nipples were a whole different color. Which I read that was going to happen, but that happened way sooner than I thought it would. I mean, it was like that, just immediate body changes. It's honestly so crazy and such an amazing thing that women's bodies can do. It's awesome. Just the hormones. It's the hormones. The suckiest part makes for the beautiful part, giving birth. That is pretty much all for the symptoms that I had the first trimester. I'll do a second trimester one whole in all second trimester video when I finish my second trimester. So second trimester ends on 28 weeks, and I am currently 23 going on 24 this Saturday. So my weeks flip on every Saturday. And that leaves me with 4 weeks left, which is crazy. This time has gone by so fast and so slow at the same time. It's definitely difficult not having my husband here. He is training, he's away. I'm not gonna say where he's at, but it's definitely, it's difficult. But I tried to take pictures and videos and all of that for everything that he misses, and honestly, all of this is mostly for him. These videos are for everybody. They're to inspire, share. You know, I am 19, I am really young, I am living with my parents, and I do plan to move out, and I know when I'm going to be moving out. It's just that being young and not having the support system from my other half is really hard. And he's missing a lot. He's not, but he is. He doesn't get to feel the baby kick. He's not going to. He's not going to be here until he's born, maybe. So this is for him, and it's for others that are in my situation as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment, like, do whatever people do. And I'll see you in the next video.